I just recently uploaded the video of me taking down Malenia for the first time. Now, which is really interesting because I looked at the death counter and it was 176. 176 tries, attempts, miserable but also joyful hours, and I mean really hours, of taking down Malenia. Talking about Malenia, Elden Ring, Blade of Miquella. Now the thing that is very interesting regarding that fight, and something that I noticed and I reminded myself of, actually this video I planned to do a couple of times, but never really got the time to do it, but now the video is uploaded and I'm like, actually want to talk about this a little bit. Just a heads up, before we get into this, keep in mind, this is going to be my opinion. I know everybody else sees this fight differently, everybody else experiences, video games and anything else very differently. This is how I see it. You know, I'm more of a casual player, I'm not a pro player, I know that. So everything that I'm mentioning right now you need to take with a grain of salt, alright? So keep that please in mind while we get into this. Alright, so Elden Ring for me personally was the very first Souls game that I ever played. Never really played anything else that was even close or similar to that game. And I think it's very interesting. The whole game already is great as a whole. It's already an awesome game. And it offers so many opportunities, so many abilities, so many different ways of trying to progress and proceed in the game, and it's fucking amazing. Every boss is unique, every boss has its own style, everything is incredible in this world. And what I want to touch on though specifically is the Malenia fight. Even though every boss is unique in their own way and very special and awesome and miserable but also enjoyable at the same time, just like Malenia. I really want to specifically focus on that fight. Now again, the reason why I'm doing this is because I was looking at the death count, which was 176. It was hands down the most attempts that I had to take in order to take down a boss in comparison to anybody else. The second most that I had was Morg, surprisingly enough, which is something else I don't really want to get into that fight, but all I want to say here is that Morg is very special in its own way. And looking back again at Malenia, 176 tries. For Malenia, which really, they went by so quickly. I think no other boss, every attempt felt so long and drawn, and it was draining almost, really. Malenia, on the other hand, that wasn't the case. Malenia has a very specific and unique moveset. She's very subtle and not really aggressive, but at the same time she is aggressive when she wants to. She is very unique in a way that she doesn't approach you immediately, but only reacts in the way you act. So she is less of an active, but more of a reactive encounter in comparison to every other Elden Ring boss, which is already unique in its own. You can exactly tell what she's doing. Every move isn't really overly done, it's just her using her sword, but in a very efficient way. And you have to analyze and, fight against that and analyze and try to counter everything that she does. And I think, while yes, most bosses have that moveset and have that principle, I think Malenia has like this very, the unique way of delivering that. So the reason why I want to talk about this fight specifically, and all that being said, there are a couple of aspects in this fight that I think, as for a casual player myself, makes this fight not 100% perfect. Now I know that Malenia is supposed to be very difficult, and I know that FromSoft is known to be, designing bosses that are more unfair than fair, and we all know that. This is just everyday Souls game experience. But again, since Malenia is such a masterpiece of a duel, a one-on-one, I think they could have worked on three really little things that are holding this fight back to be a complete 100% masterpiece. Number one, which is the lowest rated complaint that I have. Now, this being obviously like a general issue, which is the input read. Now, Malenia reacts always in a way, and as I said, she has more of a reactive than an active playstyle. So she reacts more to your actions. For me personally, the input read makes it very difficult. When I say that, I mean that specifically every time when you press a button, Malenia reacts in a perfect counterplay way. That means if you are attempting to heal, she's gonna go ahead and stab you. If you attempt to attack, she's gonna go ahead and dodge and then afterwards chain it with an attack. If you approach and do something like casting a spell or anything, she reacts in a way that she counters it, again by dodging or like even attacking you aggressively. It's something that you can absolutely outplay by being more careful and actually not having skill issue. That's a difficult thing to do. Again, this is part of the challenge and this is my lowest complaint. Now the second rated complaint that I have, this basically at second place, is the random hyper armor that she gains. Malenia is sorta doable and easy because you can stagger her. She is very, very, very fragile, basically. Every attack that you do can put her into like a second of a stagger, not even second, but a half a second of a stagger, which can actually interrupt a couple of chained attacks. Any casts that she does, you can actually prevent her, CC her, in doing something. Now, knowing this mechanic is something that you should take into consideration when fighting her, but something that you should also take into consideration is that she randomly gains hyper armor. She randomly gains immunity towards that CC. Maybe you can predict it. I never really looked into it, so I don't really want to say. I'm using this term pretty loosely. It's not really randomly. I think you can predict when she is about to get the immunity, or like when she is in a immunity phase that she cannot get CC'd, but this is the problem. Every time when you approach her thinking that you can CC her, you never know if she's in a state of immunity. You never know if the CC that you're trying to apply will actually affect her, which is a big deal, because learning the pattern is all about knowing windows. It's all about knowing what you do against that fight. And I think personally, it's a very big problem if that gets interrupted by a random factor such as, ha, now I'm immune. Now you can't CC me. Fuck you. It's annoying. It's annoying. You want to go ahead, CC her. You want to interrupt the chain that she does. It's pretty tough sometimes. Still something that is not that bad, but something that they could have worked on. At least if there would have been like an obvious indicator that she is currently immune to CC, such as a glow. There is a spark that I noticed from time to time, so I don't know, maybe that the spark could be an indicator that she's gaining hyper armor. I'm not too sure. Again, I'm more of a casual. I never really looked into the fight, so I don't know. The spark could be a case, but I'm not too sure about that. Now the third thing, which is, I think, in my opinion, the biggest issue with the fight, even though Malenia is, as said, great and an awesome fight, again, which is the reason why I'm doing this. The biggest issue that I have is the Waterfowl. Now, Waterfowl is, for anybody that doesn't know, Waterfowl is a move that once you're too close to her, she annihilates you. You're dead. You're dead meat. That attack is it's just a game over. There's nothing you can do. Even if you attempt to dodge it, if you're too close to her, there's no chance you're gonna survive a Waterfowl, which is her iconic move. It's the move that everybody is fearful of. It's the bane, I think, of every new player that fights Malenia. The Waterfowl, in my eyes, is the biggest deal breaker of this fight. Now listen, hear me out. It's not because of the reason that you're thinking right now. I'm not thinking it's unfair and it deals a lot of damage and if you do one mistake you're dead. That's not the case. Why I think the Waterfowl is a very big issue in this fight is because you cannot tell when she's about to do it. And I think this particularly is the biggest issue. Now, while Malenia is so readable, you know exactly what she does. You know every move. You can study her from top to bottom. You know exactly what she does. The biggest issue is that the Waterfowl is not, in this case, predictable, which is really annoying. We all know that at 3/4 of her health, at some point she does start her first Waterfowl, which is sort of consistent and predictable, but all subsequent Waterfowls is the biggest issue in that fight. Now, why is that a problem? The problem is, the two reasons that I just mentioned already keeps you like from a safe distance. You already keep a safe distance from Malenia because you don't want to make mistakes, right? You want to use a window that helps you to, like, you know, find a damage window and also find a window to evade, because, you know, Elden Ring has that mechanic that locks you in place when you attack and all that stuff. So you need to be very considerate. You need to understand when to attack, right? Now the Waterfowl kinda breaks that. If you find that window to attack, but you also know that she can possibly Waterfowl, now you gotta be extra careful, because at some point, at any point, she can just go ahead and Waterfowl. Now we know that Waterfowl is something that can be triggered by using too many Ashes of Wars, or even too many spells, so anything that is not a basic attack. It reduces the cooldown of the Waterfowl, and she is more likely to cast multiple Waterfowls if you're gonna abuse Ashes or spells. And this is, for my taste, pretty bad. So the approach that I would have loved to see from FromSoft in regards to the Waterfowl is that she only does it at a certain health cap. That would have been great, and that would have been something that you could play around. Yes, it would make the fight easier, but this is the whole point. It is getting to know the enemy and getting to know when she does something. Now, you could technically count down the cooldown of the Waterfowl. That's something you could take into consideration. You could know the numbers in which how many seconds it takes for a next Waterfowl and how much the cooldown gets reduced after you use an Ash of War or spell. But this is out of the range of like a casual Elden Ring player, which includes me. So you could possibly, there's no chance that you could know as a casual player how long a Waterfall will take and how much the cooldown will be reduced if you use an Ash. And this is, for my case, and for my taste, a big issue. It is not very beneficial for somebody that wants to learn the fight, that at some point you can just instantaneously lose the fight. Everything that I just mentioned goes for both cases, by the way, the first phase and the second phase, because the second phase is pretty much same old Malenia, but with additional moves that are not any difference. Modified moves, I should say. Her same moves, but they're modified. And this is my biggest issue with Malenia. Malenia has an incredible design. She has so much potential to be the #1 fight. She is incredible. Even though I mentioned all these 3 problems, Malenia is a very interesting fight. She's beautiful. It's a beautiful one-on-one duel that is not overly done, and has so much potential to be the absolute best fight ever, if not for those small, in my opinion, small issues. That being said, it took me 176 times, and I'm really glad about it. It's really awesome. She is an awesome fight, not overly done, and I think it's a masterpiece. It's a FromSoft masterpiece, very iconic. Many people take her on and are very proud of killing her, and I think everybody is rightfully very happy about taking her down. That's pretty much all. That's all I wanted to talk about. I'm very glad. Alright, that's it. That's it. That was like 10 minutes of me talking to myself. Alright, take it easy. Bye. Bye.